Bismillah. Oh, that's good. So how are you guys doing? Alhamdulillah, that's good. So I've been teaching at Islamic schools for pretty much my whole professional career. I was also in the admin side of things. So I was an assistant principal at another Islamic school. And so I have some insights on some of the challenges that you guys are going through on a daily basis. And one of those things that often come up is the distractions that are in our everyday lives, and that can be in the form of social media and phone usage and PC games and just video gaming in general, and not to mention movies, right? And some of these things are have you guys heard of the term brain rot? Raise your hand if you've heard of brain rot. Yeah, almost everybody. Raise your hand if you've heard of doom scrolling. Doom scrolling. Does anybody want to explain what that is? You want to explain? What's your name? Adam. What is doom scrolling? Yeah. Okay, scrolling way too much. Exact. Okay, add on to that. Yeah, and you say maybe I'll spend 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour goes by and you're still scrolling. And guys know what the word doom means, right? Like you're coming to your end. It's something negative. And so like pretty soon you're wasting your time. And guys, one of the things that Shaitan made a promise of, right, when he met, first of all, he was jealous of Adam alayhi salam. You guys know this story. Not this Adam. Adam alayhi salam, our greatest grandfather, right? So when he saw Adam alayhi salam, he made a promise. He said, Wallahi, I'm going to lead you and all of your progeny astray, right? Because he's made of fire. He thought he was better. And believe it or not, I think now is a time where Shaitan's really happy because he has more tools to lead us astray than ever before. But Allah also mentions in the Quran that there will be people that will be astray, except for who? You guys know which attribute Allah mentions in the Quran, the people that will not be led astray? Do you know the attribute? Huh? Deen? No, give me an adjective, like somebody that's smart or maybe somebody that's athletic. Who are the people that won't be led astray? Yes. That's a good guess, but not quite. Yes. You don't know? Anybody? Yes. Not a true believer. Allah mentions that except those who are sincere, mukhlisin. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will keep you on the path, inshallah, if you're sincere. Now, what does sincerity mean? Who can describe or explain that? Yes, what is sincerity? Okay, it is part of the truthfulness is part of sincerity, meaning you are one way in this room as you are in the other room. You're sincere in the way you present yourself and what you say that comes out of your mouth in truth, no matter what situation you're in. So that's a part of sincerity. But sincerity is doing something, according to our scholars, they mentioned, doing things for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala solely. That is a true sincere person. So like for instance, and there's different levels of sincerity, right? For instance, giving sadaqah, you do it to the point where your left hand doesn't know what your right hand donated. Or if you're praying, you're not doing it to show off. It's solely for the sake of Allah. And nobody knows when you wake up at night and you read Quran, tahajjud, all these things, you do it solely for the sake of Allah. So guys, Shaitan has so many tools now. And I think he's like just relaxing at this point because even as adults, we are like also obsessed with the things that we have in our hands. We're carrying like literally a key to access so much information from around the world, right, in our hands. And that's super dangerous, right? There's also some good things that come from it. But remember, what is Shaitan's main objective? To get you to the hellfire. And how he does it, it's different for everybody. But right now, a lot of people are going through brain rot. They're scrolling through TikTok. They're on Instagram. And if you're not involved in it immediately, you're absorbing all of this information. You know, Imam al-Ghazali, who's heard of Imam al-Ghazali? Rahmatullah alayh. He mentions that there's souls to your heart. There's windows to your heart. Windows to your soul. Do you guys know what those windows are? Has anybody heard of this before? What are those windows to your soul? You know, what's your name? Rizza, what's a window? Eyes is one of them. What else? Yes? Okay, your mouth as well. In terms of what do you consume and what do you say? Yes? Your ears, yeah, what you hear. So guys, these are the windows into your soul. And Imam Ghazali mentions in his Ihya, he mentions how whatever you absorb has a direct impact on your heart, even if you don't do it directly. So like I remember one of my cousins, she was really getting into the deen, and she started like memorizing Quran and going to different durus and halaqas and stuff. And so when she would go to Target to shop with her kids, and there was music in the background, and for some of us, we don't even like recognize it, or it doesn't even affect us. But you know how music is today. Usually it talks about haram things, and if it's not drugs or violence or haram relationships, all those things, you know, rolled up into one. So as she's walking down the aisle, she's physically getting affected by hearing the music. I'm not saying like she's like, oh, I don't like it. She's physically getting affected. Like she becomes short of breath. She has a hard time like even like thinking straight, because subhanAllah, she put herself in such a situation where she was listening to Quran every day, listening to different durus of the mashayikh, and then that physically harmed her listening to music. That hurt her soul. You know, Imam Shafi'i, you guys know Imam Shafi'i, one of the great scholars of Islam, rahmatullah alayh. One time he saw, I know this is, for us it's like no big deal because we see this like almost every day, unfortunately. He saw the ankle of a woman, the ankle. And he said he forgot whatever he learned that day, he forgot all of it. And you guys know Imam Shafi'i, he had photographic memory. So what he would do is he would learn something. The moment he read it, it was in his memory. So what he had to do was cover one side of the book so he doesn't mix both pages at the same time. He had photographic memory. That little thing that happened to him, and it wasn't even his fault, right? Allah doesn't blame you for something that happened mistakenly. But because his soul was so pure and clean, that when he saw something that he wasn't supposed to see, it affected his soul. And it had a physiological effect on him. Some people of Allah, the people of taqwa, the littlest things, it hurts them not only psychologically and spiritually, but also physically as well, right? Even look at the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You guys know when he was a teenager, he wanted to go to this wedding party. Did you guys know about this in the seerah? He wanted to go see what the people do, because he would hear about these wedding parties. So on his way to the wedding party, right, there was music and all this dancing and all these different things. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put him into a sleep. He felt drowsy and then he fell asleep. He woke up and the party was done. Did you guys know about this? This next day, he wanted to try it again because he just wanted to see what all this fuss is about. So he went, the Prophet was going, and Allah again put him into a stupor of sleep, and he missed the party. So the Prophet, even before he was a Prophet, he realized, okay, I'm not going to do this again, because every time I try, something happens to me. Why? Right? Allah wanted to preserve the purity of the Prophet's soul. And so when we're absorbing things that we shouldn't see and hearing things that we shouldn't hear, it's going to have a direct impact on our soul. The Quran isn't going to be as melodious to us, right? Listening to our parents is not going to be as easy. You know, getting up in the morning for Fajr is not part of our plan. Why? Because we are overwhelming, we're drowning our soul in things that waste time. That's the best that can happen, wasting time, because there's way worse things than wasting time, okay? And time is your biggest commodity. Then there's looking at haram stuff, listening to haram stuff, and then maybe the highest level of them all is you're opening the door to haram yourself, meaning now you are part of that world, right? You go into, you're playing Call of Duty or you're playing Fortnite, and you start to cuss back with the people that are talking to you and start using foul language. Or you start to post yourself in ways that are not permissible in the deen, right? Showing things off about yourself. Maybe your lifestyle, you knew this, you knew that. Starting to show your beauty when you should be preserving it, right? So these are the things that we have to avoid at all costs, because what shaitan does is he comes at you slowly, okay? He comes at you slowly. I'm going to tell you guys a story, because I told you I was working at Islamic school and what kind of things happen. I'm not going to, I'm going to keep everything anonymous, but these are real stories. But what shaitan does, he comes to us slowly, right? First, he'll say, your friends are on Discord. Just go on Discord. And then anytime you need help with the homework, just post on Discord and all your friends will just help you out, right? That's how it starts. And then all of a sudden, you're on Discord. Now I'm chatting with my friends because, how are you doing? Oh my God, this happened at school today. oh, did you hear what Mrs. So-and-so said? Oh, did you see what Zayd, Amr, and Bakr did, right? And then it goes to the next level, Somebody starts asking you for homework, right? That shouldn't really be talking to you outside of school, right? So all of a sudden, Fatima is texting Ahmed, and Ahmed is texting Khadija, and Khadija is texting Zakaria. Sorry if that's any of your guys' names. But we saw this firsthand, by the way. So it always starts off with, oh, we're just doing it for homework, online school, COVID, all that stuff. But this is how shaitan works as well. So if there's no parameters, there's nothing to hold you back, shaitan is going to do the things that is going to catch you. He won't say right away, oh, let's post these funny pictures that have really inappropriate content. Let's see what kind of reaction. He doesn't do that right away. First, he'll say, send this funny meme. Okay, let's make it a little bit more funny than that. Send this funny meme with bad words in it. Now send this funny meme with bad words and inappropriate pictures in it. And you guys know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to say those things because, I don't think it's an appropriate setting to talk about that. But those are the things that happen. And shaitan slowly works to the point where you're caught up. I'll tell you guys a quick story. There was a girl in an Islamic school, and she had an impeccable record. What do I mean by that? Highest academic grades, one of the best girls of adab, like her manners were just the best. All the teachers loved her. Her parents were super happy with her. And she got on a Discord because her friend said, why don't you join our Discord? We'll do our homework and stuff like that. And one thing led to another, which led to another. And all of a sudden, she's getting texted by somebody who infiltrated their group. And she starts having a message with this anonymous random person from God knows what part of the world. We don't know to this day, because this was a real case. The parents got involved, police got involved, it got really bad. And inshallah, none of that happens to you guys, but I'm just letting you know this is the reality of the world we live in. And to this day, we don't know if that random stranger was a man or a woman or who it was, but she started to have a psychological effect on this young girl. Okay, she was 12 years old at the time. He or she, we don't know what gender this person was, would tell her, oh, you're pretty, you're ugly, send me pictures, I'll send you pictures. And we don't know what kind of pictures that person sent. Could have been the actual person or just some random pictures online that person copied and pasted. And this girl went from having no exposure to any of this. She had no phone, no social media, nothing. Started with joining a Discord group. And after several months, she went into depression and she was sad and she started to act differently. Her grades went down. And this is a real story. I'm not making this up. I was involved in the situation. And I'm telling you guys so it doesn't happen to you, right? I'm telling you guys so it doesn't happen to you. And remember, guys, all of these things ultimately are taking you away from our ultimate objective as Muslims. What's our ultimate objective as Muslims? Can somebody tell me? What is that objective? Yes. To serve Allah, right? That is our ultimate objective. And when we serve Allah, we earn His mercy to enter Jannah and all of the perks that come with that. So guys, I don't want to be hypocritical because of course there's moments of weakness that we all have. Your teachers have, your parents have. There's times where we make mistakes. But alhamdulillah, Allah loves you when you realize what you're doing is a mistake. Because sometimes people, they'll do something and they'll justify their action. Okay, I was on TikTok today for 5 hours. And there's nothing wrong with that, Mom. There's nothing wrong with that, Dad. So what? I'm just having fun. I'm not texting anybody. I'm not posting TikToks. I'm just watching. What's the big deal, Mom? What's the big deal, Dad? Right? But are those things that you're watching, number one, are those things getting you closer to Allah? And even if those things are neutral, like meaning they're not necessarily good and they're not necessarily bad, are they, once again, taking you closer to Allah or putting you in a standstill? Could you be doing something better with your time? So my goal here today is not to get you necessarily to stop or do something. My goal here is for us to understand that we could be doing things that are better. Okay? We could be doing things that are better. And the Prophet did say, there's an hour for this and an hour for that, meaning like we can have fun as Muslims, right? We could definitely have fun. But know that every single action you take, shaitan is going to try to deviate you to a worse action. So even when I was a kid, right, we used to go outside and play basketball. We used to play football. There was always people that Allah put on our path that made us decide between right and wrong. So we would be playing basketball, and then some people that were playing basketball with would start to do drugs, for instance. And in that moment, we had to make a choice. They wanted us to join them, or did we say, no, that's not our thing. We're going to keep playing basketball. Okay, if you go to the mall, yeah, that in and of itself might not be haram, right? But then Allah will test you. Allah might put something in your path to see how you're going to respond, right? Somebody might come and say, and start to bother you and harass you, and they might want to get something out of you. But then at that moment, it's for you to understand, okay, this is a test for me. Do I continue to pursue this, or am I going to take a step back? The same way now, these fitnas, these calamities are in our homes now. Because you don't need to go outside to be influenced negatively anymore. Do you guys see how scary that is? Okay? It's not scary in the sense of it's the boogie monster, but it's scary for your akhirah. Because now those sins are coming into your household, and you're able to hold it on your hand. Right? And guys, there's things that we can do to mitigate or slow down or reduce these things, right? Like there's a lot of screen time apps, and hopefully your parents are involved in your devices at the same. Are anybody's devices parents involved in, or anybody? Okay, yeah, a little bit. I know for sure until my daughter is, married and on her own, I'm going to be, if I'm involved in her life, I'm going to be also involved in what she consumes. Right now she's 8, and she's just starting to ask about these watches that all her friends have that can take pictures and everything. I'm like, no, don't worry about that right now. So even I'm struggling with that now. Right now she's like, I told her no phone until later notice. But even that's something I'm worried about, because I know what's out there. I know there's a lot of people that want bad for her. And she might be gullible or naive and think that that's not the case. I'm going to be protected. But that is definitely not the case. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. SubhanAllah. Yeah. No, it goes with anything. Like, I'll give you an example. There's like studies they did on kids where they're on a tablet. It's similar to what you're saying, Rizal. They're on a tablet and they're just watching. And all the kids are watching on tablets and they're not interacting with each other at all. Sometimes the supervisors would come and put food on the table and none of the kids would move. And I also noticed that like sometimes on the weekend, we give our kids some screen time. When I come home, like let's say I'm going out running an errand, when I come home, my kids are like nowhere to be found. They don't say, Baba, you're here, yay. None of that happens, okay? On the weekday when they have no screen time at all, and I come home, before I even open the garage, okay, they're there waiting for me, like they're anticipating, they're excited, but I almost feel like their brain turns off. And guys, there's one last thing I want to talk about is your subconscious mind. I'm gonna get into some juicy details here, but who knows what the subconscious mind is? Anybody know? Rizal, what is the subconscious mind? Yeah. Okay, well, you're kind of on the right track. You have your conscious mind. You guys are all using your conscious mind to listen to me. Your mind that's awake and processing information in real time. Then there's a subconscious part of your mind where information is getting absorbed at all times, even if you're not like thinking about it actively. So like brushing your teeth sometimes, you just kind of go through the motions. Do you ever think like, okay, I'm making 3 swipes here and I'm opening my mouth this way? You don't really think about it. You just kind of subconsciously do it. So some things get absorbed into our subconscious mind and they get released later on. So I'll give you some examples. When you're a little kid, anything you see or hear or smell, all your 5 senses, your subconscious mind absorbs that. And maybe later on, like if you go back to a place where you haven't been in a really long time and you smell that similar smell, something will seem familiar. Has that ever happened to you guys? Where like you're driving by, you're like, that smells familiar. That reminds me of my grandma's house, that like food smell or something. So whenever you're listening to, it gets absorbed. So one thing that I talk to people about all the time are these Disney movies. Do you guys know what a common theme in a lot of Disney movies are? You guys know what a common theme is? Would you have a common theme you want to share? What's the common theme in Disney movies? Okay, love, romance. Yeah, that's true. There's a romantic aspect of it. Yes. There's always a dance. Okay. Well, the good and evil. I mean, as Muslims, we have our own definition of good and evil. So what's good for them might be evil for us. So that one's a little bit tricky. But a common theme in Disney movies, if you guys ever noticed this, is the girl is always running away from home. Have you guys ever noticed that? Let's go through some characters, all right? I'll go through some characters first. You ready? You guys know Moana? Did she run away from home? But she was doing it for a good reason, right? A good reason, right? She ran and she disobeyed her dad for a good reason, right? It's a good, right? At least that's what they tell us, to disobey your dad for a good reason that you think is good. All right, who knows some other characters that ran away from home? Elsa ran away from home. But that's for a good reason, right? Because it's okay for her to run away from her parents and just neglect all of her obligations. Who else? So who swam away? Ariel from The Little Mermaid. Once again, she ran away because her dad was being really mean, right? She deserved to run away. At least that's what they make it seem like, right? What else? Yes. I don't even know who that is. Oh, Sleeping Beauty. She ran away from the fairies. Yeah. So I can sit down. So I think you guys get the point, right? Do you guys get the point here? And there's also Mulan, and there's also probably Jasmine from Aladdin, and who else? Rapunzel, who else? So why do you guys think there's always like a really mean dad, a really mean Baba? And then there's always a girl that's running away. Why do you guys think they're showing this to you guys? You guys ever thought about that? Huh? They want you to hate your dad? Maybe, I don't know. Because usually the dad is the one that's the bad guy in all these stories. Yes, what else? Yeah, oh, I thought you were raising your hand. Yes.
They want you to like trick your brain to thinking that it's okay to run away.
Okay, there you go. That's another one. And so, guys, there's always in the back of our mind, maybe we can just run away from our problems. If my dad's telling me to do something, well, I know better than him. I know better than my mom. I know better than my evil stepmother. I'm just going to run away, and I'll live happily ever after. You guys ever seen a runaway where the Disney movie doesn't end in a good way? Have you guys ever seen it? Where it doesn't end happily ever after? Any? Which one? Yeah. Yeah.
For the Little Mermaid, she died and turned into sea foam.
She died in sea foam?
She died and turned into.
Oh, okay. Maybe that's a different version of the story. Alternate endings, yeah. Her eyes are. See, these endings are more in line with what happens in reality. Usually, when you make these kind of rash decisions, your life doesn't end up happily ever after. Usually has a lot more bumps and bruises. But my point in telling you guys this is not. First, I want you to be aware of anything that you watch. Know that there's always a subversive message in it. So now, when I was watching this as a kid, I didn't think, oh, the girl's running away from home. All right, the dad is being disrespected, right? I never thought about that openly, but it was a seed being planted in my subconscious mind. That if I ever go through any trials or tribulations or problems with my parents, I'm going to consider myself right, and most likely my parents are going to be wrong, because Disney taught me that usually I'm disobeying them for a good reason, and my parents don't understand. Okay, so another thing I want you guys to be careful are the subconscious messages that you are constantly. Remember, you can't help subconscious messages. Like, you can block your conscious mind by going to sleep, but if your eyes absorb it, even if you're driving down the road, you see a billboard with somebody that's dressed extremely inappropriately, that's going into your subconscious mind, even if you look away. And so it's bad enough that we live in a very liberalized, open society. There's good things that come along with it too, but there's bad things that come along with that, right? If you ever go to a major city in America, even San Francisco, I get scared for my daughters to go there because there's so many bad things that are going on in public on the streets, much less in the privacy of people's homes. And so it's bad enough that we are in this area, but now that's getting absorbed into our mind. And guys, do you think it's easier or harder to wake up for Fajr when our mind is being overwhelmed with all these negative thoughts? What do you think? Say it. It's way harder. Guys, your soul, okay, is in a constant battle with your nafs. Okay? Your soul and your nafs. Your nafs is a part of you that always wants to take the easy way out. Okay? It just wants to keep eating the saltiest and fattiest and sweetest foods. It wants to sleep in and press snooze on the alarm clock. It wants to just be on TikTok rather than do your homework, go to sleep on time so you're fresh for school the next day. It wants to always take the easy way out. But you need your nafs actually to survive too, by the way. You need your nafs. Allah has put that in all of us. But my teacher told me, treat your nafs like a horse. Okay? Can a horse get you to its destination? It can. A horse can get you to its destination, but you got to train and discipline the nafs. Sometimes you have to, tug on the reins a little bit harder to teach the horse, don't go astray. You're under my command. You don't control me. Could you imagine like you're carrying your horse. Some of us are like that. Our nafs are controlling us. Like when our parents say, okay, time to go to sleep, but we want to keep doing whatever it is that's keeping us away from that. Sometimes that's your nafs controlling you. You're not controlling your nafs at that point, right? You're not waking up for Fajr. You're not reading your Quran. You're not doing your homework, and it's hard on you to do it. Well, you have to slowly train your nafs out of that, right? So a couple things we talked about today. Number one, shaitan will do whatever he can to slowly get you off the path. And the better a Muslim you are, the more slowly and maniacally and smartly and cunningly he'll try to get you off the path. He'll never tell you right away to steal something or to hurt somebody, right? But he'll slowly come at you until he gets you to do that deed. Sometimes shaitan will even tell you to do something good to get you to something bad. So that's one thing, okay? Number two, you have to protect your subconscious mind. You're constantly absorbing information, and what you absorb matters, all right? There's a famous poem by Emily Dickinson. She says, how frugal is the chariot that bears a human soul. And back then, books were the thing that would get kids involved in sins. And nowadays, I know you guys probably think, books? How are books bad? But guys, even books carry messages in it that can affect your soul, right? So she was warning people at that time, be careful with books you read, because that can bear the human soul. So now, imagine if she lived now in this time when she would see everybody on their phone, looking down, constantly absorbing information and material, okay? And then just be aware, okay? Lastly, the last thing I want to tell you guys is you have to do things to protect yourself. Don't put yourselves in situations where your nafs is going to overcome you, right? Your nafs is going to always want to take the easy way out. And there's 3 types of nufus. You guys know the 3 types Allah mentions in the Quran? Anybody know the 3 types of nufus? Zidan? You know? 1, there's nafs al-ammara bisu. There's that nafs that always calls towards evil things. Then there's nafs al-lawama. Have you guys heard of this? Nafs al-lawama. This is the part of you that you kind of feel guilty when you do something wrong, and you blame yourself if you do something bad. That's a good quality, by the way. And then the last one is the highest one. Nafs al-mutma'inna. Nafs al-mutma'inna. Yeah, Suhaib knows. Guys, this nafs is you actually enjoy doing good things. You enjoy reading Quran. You enjoy Qiyamul Layl. The Prophet ﷺ, for him it was fard, and he actually enjoyed getting up for tahajjud every single night to meet with his Lord. Okay, so I want us here to establish that sometimes we can have fun, but within that fun, know that if you're going off the path and you know it, there's a sudden guilt you might feel, or you're seeing things you shouldn't be seeing, you're hearing something you shouldn't be hearing, know that that feeling of guilt, if you do feel that, is a mercy from Allah. And we shouldn't try to justify it by saying, I'm only having fun, at least I'm not doing it. At least I'm better than so-and-so who's posting all the time. I'm just watching it. I'm not doing it. So guys, we can't justify our actions because that's one of the fastest ways to close the doors of mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's one thing to tell Allah, Ya Allah, I'm weak. I can't stop watching this thing. Ya Allah, help me. Help me get over this. I'm your slave. I'm your servant. I'm weak, Ya Allah. You are the most powerful. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Help me. That's one thing. That opens the doors of mercy. That's another thing to say, oh, I'm not doing anything bad. I'm not killing anybody. I'm not lying or stealing. I'm just watching TikToks. Because guys, all of these TikTokers, not all of them, but many of them, they're trying to put propaganda. They're trying to sell something to you, okay? And if they're not selling a product, you are the product. If they're not selling something physically to you, you are the product. Okay? Don't let people objectify you. You're a Muslim. You have a higher purpose. You're calling towards Allah. And try your best if you're watching these things and seeing these things on Instagram. Try to stay on the Islamic pages if you can, right? Alhamdulillah, if we get caught up in the bad things, well, shaitan will also use the Islamic things. You'll have 3 Islamic reels in a row. You guys know this, right? You'll have 3 Islamic reels in a row. What would be the 4th one? Some of the girls are smiling because they know. What's the 4th one? Something haram, right? That's how it happens. Then what is this? Now you start going down the haram doom scrolling, right? So I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect you guys. And really, really, this is a time that's really scary. I think for shaitan, he's more happy now than ever before. Try your best. And if you feel guilt, know it's a mercy from Allah. Feeling guilty is one of the biggest mercies from Allah. Because if you don't feel guilty, you'll be like Fir'aun. You think he felt guilty killing all those little kids and disobeying Musa and calling himself a god? He never felt guilty for that. That's why the doors of mercy shut on him. When he tried to take his shahada, Jibreel alayhi salam, because he was jealous of the deen of Allah, it's mentioned in the riwayah, as Fir'aun was going to take his shahada, he was going to say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu Musa Rasul, because Musa was the prophet, right? He was going to say that. Jibreel stuffed his mouth with dirt. So you guys might say, well, why did Allah not let him take a shahada? He was going to become Muslim. The scholars mention Allah knew he wasn't sincere. He was just doing that so he can survive and live through the punishment. He'll go back to rebellion again. You guys see that? All right, I'll take any questions because I know we're going to wrap up here. Yeah, we're done? Okay, we're done. All right, no questions. Next time, inshallah. All right, guys, it was nice meeting you. Inshallah, we do this again. Assalamu alaikum.